Hello guys, it's Little Black Belt, and today we are going to be doing user inputs and comments for today's tutorial on C++ for beginners. So to get started, we'll go over the easiest part of today, which is the comments. Comments are really easy in programming, and so you'll see here I've got Notepad++, so hopefully I have it zoomed in so that you guys can see. It should be fine. It's pretty large, but let me know if you guys have problems and I can zoom in even more. So comments. Why would you want to make a comment? Well, comments, first off, I guess, what are comments? Comments are just lines of text inside a code programming file that don't actually get compiled and run as part of the code. So I'll show you an example. In C++, the way that you indicate a comment is with this double slash like this, and then anything you write after this is just for you, really. The computer isn't going to do anything with it. It's basically for the user as a way to keep track of what they're doing in their code or whatever. And when you have small programs like this, you might not think it's really necessary, but if you get programs that are several thousand lines of code, you might want to have comments in them, and especially if say you're working in a job environment where you need to explain your code, or you're passing your code to another programmer to look at. It's not always super easy for someone to tell what somebody else's code does, so you need to, add comments to indicate what exactly you're going for with your code and everything. So first off, we'll add a single line comment up here at the top, and we'll just say double slash. We'll say code by Little Black Belt, and I'll just put today's date, 6/19. Okay, and as you can see, it comes up as in Notepad++. I guess it's green, but it just really depends on what software you're using to create this code, this text. But yeah, so this is just a simple line. Okay, it's completely for the user. The computer does nothing with it. It's not going to affect your code any. You can have it on the same line as something else, for example. And so that's a single line quote. And then your other option is a block comment. So let's say I wanted to tell people what main does. Okay, the way you indicate a block comment is a single slash and then an asterisk, right? And then everything in between the next asterisk and single slash is going to be comment. As you can see, comment, comment, comment. Even up here is comment, right? So yeah, that's what that does. So and that's basically for making a block, right? Because this would be a single line, like explaining what this line does, for example. Like I could say, bring in standard namespace, for example. It's just a single line comment, and it's useful just for you keeping track of what you're doing in your code, and if you have to show your code to somebody else, that could be useful. Now, that's done. That's all I'm going to say about comments. That's pretty much all there is to them. Now we're going to go on to user input. User input's really important. It's one of the main parts of programming, right? I mean, you're going to want your user to be able to interact with a lot of your programs. It's a pretty essential part. So the way we do that in C++ typically is with cin. Now, you saw cout on some of my other videos. If you watch those, we can cout. Sorry. Cout hello, right? Sorry, I'll put that inside the quotes there. You can cout hello. Well, the other option is cin, and that's reading an input from the user, and so that's what we're going to do today. And as practice for today, we're just going to make a simple program where the user inputs a number, and the program will multiply that number by itself. So it'll square the number, and then it will output that number to the user. It's very simple. That's like maybe 5 lines of code right there. So we're going to do that today. I'm going to show you how to do it. And so today we're going to be using integers, but you can see in anything. You can see in chars, floats, anything, right? Any data type. With strings, cin you typically don't use this thing called getLine, just because of spaces and the buffer and everything, but we'll get into that later. But I haven't even talked about strings in any of my tutorials yet, so you don't have to worry about it. So for the data types that we did talk about, cin is something you use to take input from the user. So I mentioned that we're going to be making the program to square root. So why don't we actually make a comment of that? And we can do a comment up here, and we'll say program to square a number. And so we're just going to square that number, right? Okay, now the first thing we should do, I'll tell you, I'll just do it on this line down here because I'm going to add a little bit up here, but we'll do it here. We're going to see out just a little welcome. We say welcome to the, I don't know, we'll call it the square program, I guess. Welcome to the square program. I don't know. It's whatever. You can type anything. Slap an indel on there. Actually, what I should do is just tack it onto this line. Welcome to the square program. Please input a number. We'll do this. Here we go. That's not what I wanted. Okay. So now we're prompting the user to input a number, right? So in order to do that, we have to have a number, an integer variable for cin to put that information into. So let's create an int I. Actually, we'll say int input. That could be confusing. We'll just call it I. Int I. You can name it whatever you want, as long as it doesn't have spaces in it. And now cout works a lot the same as, cin works pretty much the same as cout, just the arrows go a different way, alright? And so we want the user to input an integer I, and so that's what we say. We say cin I, right? And so it's going to wait after it says, welcome to square program, please input a number. It's going to wait for the user to input a number, because cin is going to wait for the user to input something. And it's important that the user actually inputs an integer number rather than like just presses F on their keyboard or something, but we'll get into that later when we do error handling. For right now, we're just going to assume that the user is smart enough to input a number, an integer number, rather than something else like a word like hello, right? Okay, and now simply cout the square of, and then we'll say I, and then we'll say is, and then we'll just do I times I. Alright, so that's pretty simple, right? So if you see what we did, we're just saying the square of, and then it's going to print the number that the user input, right? Is, and then we just multiplied that number by itself. Alternatively, you could save that information in a variable if you wish. You could say int p, and then after this part you could say p gets I times I, and then you could just say p here. That's a little less efficient because we're creating this a whole other variable to store that in when we don't need it to be stored because it's the end of the program. We just need to output it to the screen. So I'm going to change that back. But anyway, just know that that's an option for you. You don't have to always put it the way I do like that. Okay? And now this should compile. F6. Okay. Alright, we'll save to desktop and we'll call it new. Make sure you put the .cpp. And looks like we didn't get any errors, so we should be dandy. Should have had this all done ahead of time, but we just run new. It says, welcome to the square program, please input a number. Let's pick a number that we know the square of is. We're at 5, if you square 5, it's going to be 25, right? And I forgot a space there, but the square of 5 is 25. Perfect. Let me make that edit right now. Just add a space there, make it look better. And we will save it again. Perfect. And now if we run it, we'll try with a different number. Let's try 4. So it should give us 16. Please input a number, press enter. Square of 4 is 16. So there you go. That's introduction to user inputs. Okay. It's going to be very useful. You're going to absolutely have to have user inputs in almost all programs that you use. I mean, I wouldn't say almost all. There's a lot of programs you don't need it, but for the programs that we're going to be doing in these tutorials, you're going to need a lot of user input. So this is the basic intro to user input. There isn't much else to it than that, honestly. That's really about it. You can do this for anything. You could do this for a char, right? You could say char, and then, I mean, you couldn't multiply. Well, I guess you could, but it wouldn't give you the math that you wanted, because remember we talked about ASCII values. It's not going to work the way it would with integers and everything. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Really, I mean, we could make this a float. We can make float I, and then yeah, that's about the only change we need to do. So let's F6. Okay, and if we run new, let's give it a decimal. Let's give it 5.5, and it's 30.25, which sounds about right because it should be greater than 25, but less than 36, which it is. So yeah, so that's all there is to it, really. So next tutorial, we're probably going to be going over conditional statements, which is where it really starts taking off, and we can actually do some interesting stuff. So I will see you then, hopefully. Tune in for that for this next tutorial. If you haven't seen the ones previous to this one, make sure you check those out. And also, if you want to use this setup I have with Notepad++ and compiling within Notepad++, which you can't normally do, make sure you check out my video. I'll have a box up on the top right screen where you can click on that. It'll link you to that video. You can check that out. Other than that, that's all I have to say about that. Hope you guys have a great day. Continue with your C++ programming, and I will see you next time. Thank you.